Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new moon forecast for November 23rd. This is a new moon in Anuradha, the lunar mansion in sidereal Scorpio. And this is where the moon is at its weakest. It's said to be debilitated. And yet the moon in Scorpio is looking for strength. And especially with Mars opposite now, retrograde in Taurus, we can find that strength within. Mars is retrograde, so going within. It's asking us to go within and to deal with our weaknesses, to deal with our fears and anxieties, to embrace them fully so that we can transcend them. And this is one of the issues with the moon in Scorpio, of course, is that sometimes we might dwell too long on the negative. We can catastrophize too long. And although the initial impulse was actually for finding strength, so in other words, if you're thinking about something negative, if you're catastrophizing, you're doing that because you're actually trying to prepare yourself mentally or emotionally for it. And so there's merit in that. But if you overdo it, then you just subject your mind to the worst case scenario and negative thinking all the time, and you weaken the mind. And actually you weaken your ability to deal with the situation if any situation were to arise, because let's face it, 99% of the time, the things that you worry about don't happen. It's that 1% of the time, that thing that you didn't actually think about, that kind of blindsides you. And you're not actually effective or able or have the energy now to deal with it. Having said that, if you don't ever think negative thoughts, if you never ever thought a negative thought in your whole life, and then something happens to you that you would label negative, you're not prepared for it at all. It's like you haven't developed that muscle. So there is merit, there is reason behind why you would think the worst case scenario. You are preparing yourself, you are strengthening yourself, you're finding strength in that situation. But it's just that you don't want to overdo it, that's all. And anytime a planet is exalted or debilitated, it tends to go to extremes. So if it's debilitated, it might go to an extreme where it kind of, the moon is Scorpio, you might see somebody sugarcoating everything, so not to deal with their worst case fears, right? And putting on a fake smile and, laughing through it all like a joker. But, obviously they're feeling these things and they're avoiding feeling them. And that doesn't help anyone, least of all themselves. But the other extreme then, of course, is, like I said, just dwelling too much constantly on negativity. And, again, there's a balance here, and there's a need to embrace any negative thoughts. And in that depth and darkness of your worst case scenario, your worst fears, you can actually fully embrace how you're feeling and transcend it so much quicker. Like, it's just so much easier to sit with whatever pain you're feeling, whatever fear that you have, and then transcend it, completely absorb it into your being and move from the darkness into the light. And that's the journey from Scorpio to Sagittarius always. From the fear and depths of Scorpio to the hope of Sagittarius. And you might hear this saying a lot in spiritual circles, in Buddhism especially. They talk about this no hope, no fear. And that in a way is this slipping between all our hopes and fears, in that gap between Scorpio and Sagittarius. And so that's a potential as well. But we are human. We have these tendencies to slip into our fears. And from that, of course, we want to have a better situation. If you're in any way fearful, you're going to hope for something better. And hope is certainly a big theme for this new moon, despite the dark themes that is coming up right now. Because Jupiter, the planet of hope, is stationing direct and will start to move forward in the sign Pisces in the days after this. So on the new moon itself, it actually stations. So it's so powerful. And it's aspecting this new moon in Scorpio. They're in the same element. So Jupiter in Pisces, sidereal Pisces, the new moon in Scorpio. They're both water signs. So there's a real need to connect with what gives us hope, and moving forward now, embracing fully what we might fear and reconnecting to what gives us hope and meaning, while we're finding strength within ourselves and really connecting to our power. When you think about it, the fifth sign is about power, and it's often talked about as in political power in a chart, but it's also about personal power. Fifth house is very much about what we dedicate ourselves to, and that gives us power. That also gives the thing we do power. So if you think about fifth houses, it's very much about spiritual practices that we do. And if you've ever practiced any spiritual practice at all, the more you do it, the more power you give it, but the more power it also gives you. When you think about chanting a mantra, that's fifth house. when you really connect with that mantra, there's a power in that. So thinking about this for this new moon is important, that we don't just dwell on negative thoughts, that we use those as fuel to fuel more positive activities, such as meditating, such as chanting a mantra. And reconnecting with that more meaningful activity gives us more hope. And so this is an important lesson, I think, for this new moon in Scorpio, as the planets, including Venus and Mercury, move through Scorpio with the sun and moon now. And as we really bring this all kind of to a sense of this personal reset in the dark time, in a very dark time for many people on this planet, and for everybody, you might say, because we all are witness to what is happening on our planet right now. And we cannot avoid that. We don't need to project all of our negativity onto other people either. We would be much better off embracing all of that and recognizing it all within ourselves and becoming more whole. And we can only become more whole when we embrace our darkness as well. And by embracing our darkness, we can transcend it and move into the light. So I hope you can do so. I hope you find something to connect with that gives you a sense of hope, while not avoiding any negative thoughts that you have, any negative feelings that you might feel. And I wish you all the best for this new moon phase in Scorpio. And until next time.